Hey Jay, look at that Super Center.
Yeah. Are you in it?
I'm just gonna say hi in the beginning,
Oh,
and then
okay.
I'll come back to that.
Yeah, you're good.
All right.
You need to go down though. There you go.
Good.
Yeah, that puts your head in there.
All right. Hey everybody, this is Devante from Ikuna. We're here with Coach Beam at Laney College. Just here to connect and check up on how he's doing and all the success he's had with the Netflix series, Last Chance U. And so grateful to be here with him this morning. Thanks,
Right
Beam.
on, brother. Got you, man.
All right. So it's funny that we're talking about Last Chance U, because when it came out, we didn't know that we were going to be on that too, on some of those episodes. And so people were reaching out to us and asking us, how did you guys know Beam? How did you guys get on there?
Well, as you know, the two of you have a special, and your dad have a special part in my family's heart. Both of you were played on my first team as a head coach. And I will never forget, early on, we had won a championship the year before I took over. In our year, we struggled. We lost like the first 4 games. And your dad would tell my wife every time, oh, tell coach to keep his head up. The boys are getting better. The boys are being gathered. He's doing the right thing. Just reaffirming, even though the score didn't show that. So your dad was like a big supporter, but really to my wife and me. And then I never forget that when you were that first year, Taimani and John, you guys would sit there, and I heard this story, and I think you told me too, like, you used to count down, like, oh man, we got another, 19 hours before we got to go back to the field, like you just hated it. But then we fast forward the next year from 5-4-1 to 10-0, and John was like, man, I can't wait to go, man. It's 8 more hours, man, that's too long. So you can see how winning changes just how you perceive the same journey, the same path. And the grind is still the same, whether you win or lose on the field. It's still the grind. But the two of you played on championship teams. And so those are things that I remember, just phenomenal athletes, great heart, great students, But your dad taught you both so much. And you can see it in what you're doing both now, what you're both doing in the community now, trying to uplift, the Tongan community, but the poly community in general here in Oakland. And I think it's so important. And I see it in your kids, when I see them here on campus, how they carry themselves. So your dad's legacy lives on. And so I will never forget your father, or neither of you two as well. And then we got to add your cousins like John and Alika. Yeah. We had some good times.
And you remember their dad. Their dad was very vocal.
Yeah, very vocal. Your dad was very quiet, but what he said just carried so much heart, And then I'll tell you this one, it was funny. We're 9-0. We're getting up ready to play Oakland High for the championship, be 10-0. And then the kids wanted to do like a dinner the night before the game. And then they said, hey, we want to do a pig, Tongan style. And so your dad decided he was going to roast a pig. Yeah. And so the kids all went over to your house after practice. And then they started playing with the pig. And the pig was like their friend, they're like their new pet. And the next day when your dad brought the pig up to eat, they couldn't eat it because they're like, we were just playing with it. It was so, excuse me, it was so funny. But again, what it does, it allows what you did, but what happens all the time here is that we share cultural experiences. So these are the black kids in the neighborhood never even understood about eating pig. They eat pork chops, but didn't see a whole real pig. And then seeing that, and then learning your culture about, well, we have the pig, we have to kill it, we have to roast it. And they embraced it. And so that's the other part of what, like sports do, right? It allows us to blend people from other cultures and other backgrounds into a cohesive unit that becomes a new subfamily. And we learn those values, which is so important. I think that's what the two of you are bringing now with what you're doing with Akuna and everything, and what you showed them Netflix, right? With the young men, trying to teach them. Some of them, all they know about their culture for some of them is doing the haka, right? They don't even understand the other deep cultural experiences that are occurring every day. So I really appreciate you all doing that here at Laney.
Thanks. Next question. I know you've had a lot of success throughout the years on the high school level and now in the Laney College for many years. How has the Last Chance U series, has that done anything for Laney College and for your career, your team? Enrollment, interest.
Well, yes and no, right? The problem is it comes out during the pandemic, right? And so we got issues with the pandemic. If we had housing, we would have 5,000 kids here want to come play football, but we don't, right? So remember, these are out-of-state kids that want to come, and we don't have really housing for them. But I think what it really has done for me personally has reconnected me with my past, my history. I've had people reach out to me that I coached 40 years ago in San Diego that saw it and said they remembered me and that this was the same person. It also validated certain things. You know, how I coach. You know how I coach. You two have been a part of it. Whether you like it or not, right, that's who I am. Well, it looked like a lot of people kind of resonated with how I did it, right? And so that was good. You know, like, hey, we like how you coach. You know, when we were talking about from all over the world, from New Zealand, Australia, UK, France, Canada. You know, I mean, people reaching out all the time. And so it was really good. The other thing that has reached out is a lot of my ex-students, former students, right, and players, and what success they have become. And when I say that, we look at these guys, which I'm very proud of, that made it to the NFL. We say, this is success. Right. But what about the person that's a teacher or the social worker or has a plumbing job or, starts their own community organization? Those are successes too, especially in this community of Oakland. When we look at our failures get flashed on the news screen. Our failures get flashed on the newspaper with the deaths and the crime and things, but not the successes. The success of someone, just the success of being a teacher now, a dentist, a financial planner, whatever. How about just being a father, showing up every day for their children, right? For many of them that didn't have fathers in their lives. So those are successes to me, and I got to see them again and embrace them. And when I look, we all look a little older, with my wisdom hair. But when you look at them, you look them in their eyes, you still see Taimani and John way back then, right? No different. The eyes don't change. So that's the success I think the show has brought for me anyways.
And how hard has it been for your athletes? I mean, with the pandemic and not being able to practice, and then do you have a season, or do they have to, do they lose eligibility? All of those questions.
So number one, they don't lose eligibility. We don't know about the clock stopping or starting, so we don't know that yet. But they definitely don't lose their eligibility. What's been hard though, is this is a group of people that have been told their whole lives they don't belong in school, right? That you're not going to be anything. You're going to be a statistic. You're going to be in jail or dead, right? And so we bring them here and we believe in them, right? And they start believing and we help them get through stuff. And so there's this constant belief, but they haven't been able to see us. And by not being able to see us, it's created I think, a big drawback. It's hurt them. It's hurt us. I worry about school, right? They're not always have the best skill set to start college. And now not getting the support they need, hands-on support, doing it on the Zoom, has been really difficult. Yeah. On top of which, some of their family members have come down with COVID, right? Or they've had to go work because their families have lost jobs. And so school becomes on the back burner instead of the front burner. So I worry about that as well. I think just coming out and working out now with us getting to see everybody every day has made a big difference in just how they approach things. You can see a little bit more bounce in their step, right? Our numbers have doubled since we've been out. We were around 50, now we're almost at 100. And so those little things make a big difference, and I think their classes are going to do better. Doug, our counselor, is able to come by. But what I tell the kids is this: you got to worry about the things you can control, and you can't worry about things you cannot control. We cannot control recruiting right now, right? But we can control is how well we prepare for when recruiting starts again. So even though we're trying to have a small season, we are all using this as developmental time to get better. So when we do come back, hopefully in fall of 2021, for sure, we'll be in a better place to put our best foot forward.
So there's no football in the spring here?
We are trying. We're looking at a 3 or 4 game schedule, small, stay within the Bay Area, but I'm just not sure how it's going to work. I just submitted my protocols to Alameda Public Health to see if they'll be accepted that we're able to keep people safe. I think we can, and that's the best thing, but I'm going to keep them safe. That's number one. That's my number one priority. But not only safe from COVID, but I got to make sure that they're safe to be able to go hit. Remember, they haven't done anything for over a year. We left in March. So their bodies haven't been used to contact. Think about it, right? If you guys remember how we got used to hitting all day and then all of a sudden you don't hit for a year and try to hit again? oh my gosh, what's
Yeah.
that going to be, right?
Yeah.
Injury-wise. So, again, we got to make sure we keep everybody safe.
I think one other question I had, I noticed that you started to have, you learned how to be on social media. I see you have a social media presence now. And I'm like, and me and John were just talking about it, like, man, B, he doing it on Facebook. He knows how to work that thing now.
So don't get it twisted. I do a little bit, but I have 2 young assistant coaches whose job is to make sure that they do a better job than I can. You know, surround yourself with people that can do things that you can't do, right? So I do put a few things on my original post, but a lot of them is I'll walk it through them and then they'll make it look a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I am on there.
That's great.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting being on there. But again, I get to connect with people that I haven't seen in a long time, right? And that's been the way. You know, like this woman reached out to me that I taught at Frick way back in the day.
I saw that.
And she was freaking on a getting up for an Oscar.
Oh,
She
wow.
went from the hood to the glamour of Hollywood and the red carpet. You know,
Yeah.
I'm so proud of her, right?
Wow.
But, you know, because she saw the show, she said, Coach, me and my mom were crying when we saw you because it brought back memories about you saved my life in junior high. And I'm like, I did? Teachers, for any teachers or educators out there, understand this. Some of the words that we say that we think are meaningless actually have so much impact to a young 13 or 14-year-old kid that's struggling that we may not know about it. So be careful what you say, but also remember, just a kind word here or there, it goes so far.
Yeah.
And that's what she said. So, I mean, I'd like, okay, good. And I know I make a lot of kind words, but I also say some unkind words too. New heard a few of them.
Yeah, so like, I mean, you know, the reason why I reached out to you last week because at the school that I work with, they had invited Devon Best.
Absolutely, he's right
And
there.
he's right there. I see his jersey right there. And when he spoke, the first thing he talked about was, Coach Beam helped me to get my life back in order. And he was describing all the trials that he went through of being incarcerated,
Yeah.
problems off the field, and your name came up, you know, several times during his description, and I was like, that's me, and you know, so that's why I hit you up. I was like, man, I just heard the most powerful talk, and he was talking to middle schoolers and high schoolers,
Yeah.
and so he had them like captivated about his story. That
It's a
even
great
though-
story.
It's a great story. Even
It's
though
an
he had all
ongoing
these
story,
problems,
yes.
he still made it to the highest level, you know, NFL, and still battling with some, you know, mental
Yeah.
health issues.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
But you know, I was really like, I felt really proud that we got to be a part of your life and how you influenced us, not only us but like the community in general, black, brown, white,
Yeah.
Asian students. So
I think, you know, one of the things as teachers or coaches, right, you know, we sign on, it's not for a 6-hour day or whatever, right, or, you know, just half a year or whatever it is. It's a lifetime. And so if you say you're going to be there for them, really be there for them, right? And that means through the good and the bad. And that's part of the thing that, you know, my family and I have been able to do. And I can't do without my wife and kids embracing that too, right? Because, you know, they allow you to, you know, hey, let's go do this. I mean, we have a lot of wins. We don't have as many. Actually, how about this one? Fihi reached out.
oh, he did?
Yeah, not to me, but through Taliman.
Yeah.
Tali said he saw something, I don't know, but, you know, like Fi's in New Zealand again.
Yeah,
So,
he's in New Zealand.
you know, so that's a kind of a win and kind of a loss, right? You know, we got it to a point with him. You know, we got a Division I scholarship. You know, he's one of the best players in the state of California, and then some different things occurred, right? So, but you look at those things and you know, you go, okay, you chalk them up, but you don't stop trying, right? You just keep going. So, yeah, those are good things.
Any last questions?
Can you just believe now? You think about Fihi on social media?
Yeah. And you know, he's doing good. He's married. He has I don't know, 4 or 5 kids. He's
Oh, you
doing
guys
well.
talk to him?
I connect with them on Facebook.
We
Oh,
connected,
good.
but I saw his wife like a few years back. She was visiting.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, they're doing good. And even though he didn't continue on with his, you know,
Yeah.
football career, but he's successful in his own right.
That's what I mean. We're heroes, right?
Yeah.
Just being a good dad is a hero,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
Right? Going to work every day, it's a hero, man. It's
right.
not easy going to work every day, especially when it's a job you may not love, but you do it because you want to make sure that your family has food in the house, right?
Yeah,
I reached out to CY. You know, he was doing well with his little company. He's doing some good construction.
Oh
you
yeah,
know?
see what?
And I'm like, okay, that's great. You
Yeah.
know, so he came up right. He was a running back like you, John, afterwards.
little guy.
Couldn't play
Mighty
DB
Mouse.
like you though,
Yeah.
but he played running back.
I'll make sure I'll cut that out.
Yeah.
Couldn't play that. Couldn't play
So what do
DB
you
like
think
that.
about Skyline? I mean, you know, we had such a winning tradition there over the years, and you know, what's happening there? I mean, how do we bring that back?
Or just the OEL in
Just the
general.
OEL.
Well,
in
I think
general?
number one is let's look at this. One of the things I see in the OEL right now is all the coaches, all 6 head coaches, actually grew up and played in the OEL.
Yeah.
So I think that could be good.
Yeah.
I see Joe Bates doing some good things up
Yeah.
there, right? But you know, part of it is that you have to have a culture. You have to set up a culture of winning, and Mac has that culture right now, like
Right.
we did. And then you have to have that culture of winning is winning, but it's also the work that comes with the culture. Everybody just thinks that you can win. I want to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's a lot of work. You know, it's like that free company. Remember doing
Right.
that work? Shit. No one wants to talk about it, but there's a lot of work to be done in that free company, right? And so they don't understand the work that it takes. And I think here's the other piece that bothers me, right? I don't, like, Joe does a good job, but you know, where are the teachers that are on campus teaching every day? I was on campus all day long, right?
Yeah.
So my first year, right, I was still at Frick, and
That's
I'd
right.
run
You
up,
would come up for
practice,
That was
right?
my junior year.
And I spend most of my time figuring out what problems occurred during the day.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, instead of me being on campus, I can deal with those problems all day long. And now when we get to the field, we're concentrating on football.
Right.
Yeah.
And there you see me. Those are huge,
Yeah.
huge differences, right? And so Oakland needs to understand that, right? I tell everybody this. The number one successful at-risk program that we see year in and year out, worldwide, you know, nationwide, is athletics. But what's the first thing they want to cut?
Yeah,
Athletics.
Yeah.
And then they give it to an outside group to come in and run some programs. But if you get the people on campus every day, you know, from the morning to the end, there's that presence to help when there's an issue.
Right.
I remember one kid at Skyline just went off on a teacher, and he just spiraled out of control. If I wouldn't have been there to help just get him back in, who knows? He could have really been a statistic, right? But once I got him back in, he was right back to his normal self. But
Yeah.
who doesn't? Because teachers, they see a big black or brown man going off, they get scared, they want to call the police, right? Versus, let me just talk to him, let me figure out if I can figure a way to control him,
Yeah.
right? And I may not, you know, but one is just, you hug him up, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And once you start hugging them, you can just feel that energy, that negative energy. You start to absorb it, right? They're just furious, you know? And then slowly it changes. And then they sob. And then they tell you what really was a problem. It wasn't really the incident in class. There was really some things that happened at home, but the class triggered it,
Yeah.
right? But we take that time to do it. So being on campus. So as you guys go, I'm hoping you guys can be on campuses more, right?
That's what we're trying.
Right, so that as you're on campus to
Yeah.
help, right, so they can see someone that looks like them, that can understand what they're saying and doing. You know, I embrace the Tongan community. I'll tell you this, right, when I first met John Masia, because I met John before, then Alika, then it was
Yeah,
you guys. I thought he was Samoan because I grew up with Samoans. I didn't know what Tongans were.
Yeah.
Then when I met John and Alika, and then you and your dad, then I started to learn more about the Tongan community and their culture, which is, we want to say they're the same, but they're truly not.
Yeah.
There are similarities, but they're not. So you learn that, right? And then you figure out, then I figured out, oh, wait a minute, there's a strong relationship to your culture here in Oakland and the church.
Right.
That's right.
So I got to learn about, you know, family night.
Right.
You know, what goes on? When do you guys go to seminary? You know, every morning, right?
Right.
So you start to learn these things, and then I can now have a conversation and help navigate what's going
And
on.
I think that's one of the things that made you so impactful is that the relationship was not only with us as players, but it reached into our families.
Yeah.
And I don't see too much of that anymore. Like most coaches have a relationship at the high school level with their players, but I don't know to what extent do they actually have that with their families.
Yeah.
You know?
And part of it could have been, you know, I was new up here, right? Young. I had no friends, so your
Yeah.
families became my friends. I don't know, you know what I mean? But you start to learn. Even when I was at Frick, a lot of the kids, you know, in East Oakland, there's a lot of little churches, corner churches,
Yeah.
in the basement, backyard churches. So you start, they have a, you know, pancake breakfast, hell raised, man. You
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go and you support them. Now they go, wait a minute, Mr. Beams always comes, you know, so
Yeah.
when the kid is having a problem, you can go and work through it, or they respect you, that, you know, they understand. Same thing though, knowing, you know, for you all, right, is like, okay, I know that I need to talk to your dad about something that's happening down in Overdale with the group at Overdale. He can open that bridge for me to come down there to talk to the dad or the uncle or whatever, you know, or up at Pleitner or up at Overland, you know, we're feeding and we're staying, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you start to learn that, and then you figure out who to go to and have this community. Just like when I recruited Cy and them, right? It was, you know, like I went to the church because on Tuesday night you guys opened up the church to play basketball. So I went up there to, you know, like he was, you know, not feeling me, right? And, you know, everybody was trying to push him to go somewhere else. But when I think I came to the church, it worked out, right? You know, okay, and I know where to go. And I'll be honest, up until I got to Laney, I never understood the importance of your mission. Because I would, you know, you would leave and go on your mission, I wouldn't see you until way after. But here, they go, I see them, they go on the mission, and they came back and to play again. And I could see the change that occurred from the 2-year mission, the maturity. You know, even the twins, who we know can be a little bit different, right? They came back, they're bilingual. They asked me to come to the Sunday where they talked about their mission. And they were doing it in Spanish. Like, okay, I know a little bit of Spanish, so that was cool to see that. And then when Cy came back, you know, he didn't really know how to speak Tongan. He knew how to speak American Tongan, but he was in Tonga. And, you know, then I didn't know, but, you know, Isaac and Bo were trying to tell me what he was saying. But you could see all the families in the church, the dads and moms that were like, oh my God, they were touched by his speech in Tongan. It meant so much, right? And so you start to see what's happening. And, you know, Cy wasn't doing well before he left. He was starting to hang out with some different cousins and stuff that weren't doing the right thing. He came back, he had like 20-something units of straight A's, got together, got a, you know, Pac-12 scholarship. But, you know, all that happened, I think, the maturity.
They call him to be a bishop now over the church that he's at.
But I could see that the mission, he was at that crossroad, right?
Yeah, he was.
You go either way. Look, V, right? I mean, he was the scout leader. And I'm the guy that, you know, I had to put him in jail. Right? And look how he turned his life around. So you can see that, right? And it was a good experience for me and him. And look where he's done, you know, when he came back to his community and did so much. So I think it's important that you see all that. But, you know, by being here for so long, you get to see the evolution of it all, right? But if I'm only here 4 or 5 years, I may not see that evolution.
That's right.
You know, and that's what these Oakland coaches need to understand. They have to see the evolution and be willing to embrace it. You can't bring the poly coach in to handle the poly kids, and the black coach handle the black kids, and the white coach handle the white kids. One coach got to handle the whole group, right? Or you're going to create this separation that we definitely don't want.
So 2 more questions.
Okay, I got to get rolling too.
What does the city of Oakland mean to you?
Well, I love it. I love it. It embraces me. I love everything about it, right? Oakland's gritty like me. Oakland is me. Like, you know, like people don't know what I am, what my culture or my nationality, right? But it doesn't matter because I blend into Oakland. I got a little something to everybody. I talk about this. I say Oakland is a giant quilt, and I'm just one patch of that quilt. The individual patches may not look spectacular. They look boring. But when you put it all together and you hang that tapestry up, that's a beautiful quilt. That's Oakland to me.
Last question. When it's all said and done, what will be your legacy? What would you like to be remembered most for?
That I believed in young people, I never lied, and I stood up for them no matter what, right? And, you know, when all the Black Lives Matter and social justice was going on with that was going on during the spring, right? I texted a lot of my ex-players and coaches that are black, and I said, you know what, I love you, I will always be here for you, and I will stand next to you. Not behind you, but next to you. So if that, you know, that people would say that Coach Beam, he stood with us, then I would be happy, right? That my family stood with you all, and that you stood with my family. And trust me, all through my years at Skyline, you know, we've had a few incidents at games, right? You know, and my wife's, her instructions were real clear. Something goes on, go stand with the Loudies, Mr. and Mrs. Loudy. Go stand with, you know, Feehees people. Or the young kids that were coming up or the old kids that came back. If something happens, your job is immediately go find my wife and stand next to them. Because I knew if you know, my Tongans were near my family, they would always be safe. And it kind of turned out that way.
Well, thank you,
great.
Coach.
Thank
for
you.
giving us this time.
Well, I can't
Appreciate
wait to
everything.
get you back on campus so we can make some more differences.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
We look forward to it. We're actually meeting with Brett Biscoff, is that his name? Rudy?
Rudy,
Yeah,
no.
we meet with him today.
Oh, good. Well, tell him I'm endorsing you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Appreciate it.